everyone, it is Natalie from Being Intentionally Creative, and today we're going to do a bit of an experiment. It's something that I've been wanting to do for a little while, and I just haven't gotten around to it, and I thought, well, today's the perfect day to do it. I have some resin already mixed up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to work with translucent colors first, and then I'm going to work with mica powders, and I'm going to include glitter in both of them. Here's what I want to do. I have molds that I've gotten from Michael's over the years, and some of them, I love the molds, but they're very deep. And when you fill them up, and because they're so deep, they're kind of heavy. And so I wanted to come up with an idea of potentially not using as much resin, at the same time keeping the pieces light, because depending on the piece itself, some of them slant. And I don't know if you've seen the molds, and they're meant for cooking. They're really not meant for what I'm using them for, but that's okay. I like them, I buy them. So some of them slant, and you can use a lot of resin because you don't want the thickness too off all the way across it or through it, or however you want to word that. So what I did was I went out and I had bought some mini styrofoam balls. And my thought process is, and I have no idea if this is going to work or not, is to mix those in with the resin, color the resin, or color the resin and add them in. I don't think it matters which way. And then pour them and see, one, from a weight perspective. I don't know if these will dissolve in resin. I haven't got a clue. Guess we're going to find that out really quickly. And just how they come out. So I kind of think we need to have translucent and be able to see these balls through it. But more, it's about using them as a filler to keep the piece light, especially if I go up to the top. Now, I've made up 80 mils of resin, and if I'm not mistaken, this type of mold, because it is so deep, I think they take, 20 to 30 mils anyway, just on their own. And I'm hoping when I put the styrofoam balls in, one, they don't melt, and two, that, they help that it lasts longer, right? So that I can fill up more. I don't really want these all the way to the top. These things have got to be 2-3 inches thick anyways. And again, they're meant for cupcakes and that kind of thing, so I understand the depth of them. I have some smaller, when I say smaller molds, I've got molds like these, but they're smaller, which, they're fine. But I want to try this theory out. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to mix our color in first. We're going to do the translucent. I'm just going to move these, and they're Christmas trees, if you can't tell. Hopefully you can. I'm just going to move these out. I also put them on a bed of rice because this top end was sitting down too much, and I thought, just get your rice out. So I have Let's Resin dye emerald green, and I have Color Pour resin jade. Sometimes I look at these colors and I think, well, you're not the color you say you are, but that's okay. So I'm just going to put a bunch of this emerald green in here, and we'll mix that up, and maybe we'll put a drop or two of the jade in. We'll see where we end up and go from there. So I hope you're all having a great day. I have a number of different things I will be doing after I get these poured and waiting for them to set. I have a burn barrel, and I think I've mentioned this before, that on my property that I can burn some stuff, and I've been doing a lot of shredding, and I have a lot to burn. So I figured I'd get the first part of this video done, and then while stuff was curing, I would go see about getting some of my shredded paperwork burnt. And it's a nice day outside, so I'd like to spend some time in nature today. So I'm just curious, and I live in the country, and I have one neighbor next to us, but I can't touch their house. I have to walk across our field to get to them. But I'm just curious. The outdoors is amazing to me, and sometimes it brings me such peace. So I'm just wondering if you find yourself, kind of getting stressed out or whatnot, what do you do to sort of de-stress, to bring yourself back down to a calm and level place. I'm feeling that these days, that I need that. And that's why I want to go spend some time outside. So I'd love to know what you do. Do you go for a walk? Do you work out at the gym? Do you sit down with a good book? Do you just remove yourself from all that's going on in the world? I'm really beginning to feel very strongly that I need to stay off social media. I question sometimes what people post, and it's like, why are you posting this? It doesn't need to be posted. But I know everyone's, got their own thing and has to deal with life their own way, which is fair. And I figure, well, since I'm having a hard time with it, I really think I need to stay away from it. So I'm going to add some more of the Let's Resin. I think I'm going to stick with the emerald green versus the jade. And after we get this in, we'll throw some sparkles into this. And I decided to use this measuring cup because I want something easy to clean out when I'm done. And I also figured from the ease of putting in the styrofoam balls. I mean, I find they're very staticky, like styrofoam is in general, I think. And these guys being really small, I can just see them wanting to go absolutely everywhere, which isn't something I want. I kind of want to keep them in control, if you will, as to the best of my ability. Okay, so there's our green. I guess I should take it back down. It was in the right spot. Again, being that I'm kind of experimenting here, I don't need a really vibrant green. You know what? I'm not going to do that because I don't want tons of glitter in this. This is a Recollections glitter. I have quite a bit of Recollections, actually, from a glitter perspective. I have lots of glitter. I just have lots of glitter, but... So we'll do that. And before I do anything else, I am going to throw some of these, well, I'm not going to throw them in. I'm going to very carefully, and I really don't want these all over the place. So I'm very careful opening these up. And try not to get the sticky stick into my gloves too much. Oops, there. See, we've got some for... Ah! I guess I shouldn't scream on camera. All right, let's see if we can get some of these in here. Just a few to start with and see what happens to them. I will start there. Yeah, they're very, very staticky. And I just want to be really careful with them. It's almost like putting marshmallows in something, eh? And I'm going to be sort of curious too as to if they color up or if they stay white. That's the other thing that'll be interesting. They'll be hidden more in the mica powder when I get around to doing that. But I'm really curious to know how much this will help, or it may not. Now, they don't seem to be dissolving, yay. And I guess too, I'm sort of expecting these to float in the resin because they are so light. Let's get some more in here. Yeah, I want to be really careful pouring these in. And I got these from the Dollar Tree, and they actually had colored ones as well. And I decided, no, I just wanted the white to play with. I'm going to have fun if there are any of those. Anyways, they had colored ones. And like I said, it was an interesting idea. And I just thought, well, let's try it out and let's see what happens if, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. Yeah, I expect these are going to float. And I don't think I should put too many more in. If I put more in, it so reminds me of working with marshmallows, and they're not melting. They appear to still be staying solid and round, which is great. Okay. And for those of you in the United States, did you have a great, or are you having a continually great long weekend with your holiday having been on Thursday? Are the festivities still occurring down in the States? Drop that in the comments below if you So these very much are floating versus setting down into it. So I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I'm just going to throw a few more in here and then we'll be done. Normally you have everything settling and this stuff is just sort of floating on the top. So it might be one of those things you'd have to put a lot in. But we'll just see how this pans out, right? I've got 2 bags of those and I think they're going to last me a while. I think I'd have to put a lot in here, but we'll see. Okay, so I don't think I'm going to put any more in. Like I say, maybe with the mica powder, I might put more in. But let's just see how this works. And because there's floating on the top, whereas glitter usually sinks, these are going to get poured in first. So maybe what I'll do is I'll put some in. So let me move this out of the way so I can move it over. I put the mold off to the side here just because it was easier from a mixing perspective for me. Let's put that guy in there too and just stick him down. All right. Move this over a little bit. It's right out of the way. Okay. Push it down. And you're right in the view. Okay. Well, we'll put some of these in. This is going to be so cute. I'm so curious about this. I almost feel like what I need to do is get them, get these out. This is going to be an interesting experiment because I almost feel like I should have done the styrofoam balls by themselves and then so I can pour the resin on because I'm getting all the styrofoam balls out and then so fitting them in to all the crevices, that's going to be an interesting thing too, right? Because they're going to be in first, so that might not have been my best thingy. So, well, what we're going to have to do is we're going to just have to, so next time when I do the other mica powder, I'm going to separate it out because I'm going to get all the styrofoam balls on the top. Did I expect that? Maybe not as much as what is happening. Maybe not as much as what's happening, but I definitely want to get some just resin in and not all the styrofoam balls first. So it's going to be an interesting experiment to say the least. Because the first one's got all the styrofoam balls and the second one, I'm going to have to get another stick out so I can push these off. So yeah, I would have been better off mixing up the resin and putting some resin with just the styrofoam and leaving some of it without the styrofoam balls in it. So let's just sort of, I need to play around with this a little bit. It's okay. Put that down. Yeah, so yeah, like I said, this was just something that kind of came to mind. It's like, is this going to work for me, or is this one of those don't ever do it again? And I guess we'll find out. Like, I mean, I expect this to set as it normally would. I wanted something that would kind of fill up the mold without me having to use tons of resin on it. So this may or may not work. I'm getting, do I want to do a third one like this? I don't think it'll really matter. So let's, you know what? No, let's just do 2 of them for right now. And because this is resin that's going to take 24 hours to set, it'll be okay if I add, you know, some other. But yeah, I think I put too many styrofoam balls in, but that's okay. Once I get these all out, Yeah, it would have been easier to do it the other way. So I'll just work on getting all these styrofoam balls out. They're not changing color either, which is, I kind of had hoped maybe they might. And one thing I could do is take a spray paint that I have, and can you visualize that? That I'm spray painting them and they're flying all over the place? Yeah, I can see that happening too. Yeah, how to spray paint small so that they don't end up all over the place, eh? Put that suggestion in your suggestion for that one in the comments below. I think the other thing that's going to be interesting too, when I get to pouring the resin in, is, am I going to get a 3D effect with these because of the styrofoam balls in it? So this is going to be a really cool experiment. I'm almost got all my styrofoam balls out of here. Put the rest of them in the other. So first thing is separate them out. Take some resin, because it'll definitely make it easier. All right, that's the last of those. So they're both about half full with the styrofoam balls. Very carefully gonna pour over top. I'm really hoping that this will set down inside of it, that it'll work its way down into and between all these styrofoam balls. Just filling up the star on this one. Here, let's see. I can maybe turn this around now so you can see a little bit better. I can do this with my right hand. I think this is going to be kind of cool to see. And what another idea might be too, instead of doing it all at once, would be to do it sort of partially, so that the styrofoam balls don't float up and then put a layer on top. I'm gonna be really curious, sort of from a 3D perspective, how these are gonna look when they're all said and done. It'll be interesting. I'm hoping they don't, they kind of stay where they are now without moving about too much. That's kind of a hope of mine. And maybe too, once sort of the resin gets on top, it'll be enough to hold them down. I don't know. But yeah, I'm going to be curious. And two, right? Like I might not put all of the resin in here. I might do is, I've got another mold off to the side here that I might use just to put some into it. We'll get a little bit more put on this one, and then I want to try and flatten them down just a little bit. Okay, let's just do that. I'm almost out of resin. There's not a lot left there. I want to see if I can't get one of those up into the front. Where is... There it is. That's the one I want. Okay, let's see if we can't get some... trying to see if I can't get one of these... Yeah, the resin balls are just... Or the resin balls. These balls are just a little too... too big to get up into the star of the tree. Yeah, they're definitely popping up because of the resin I'm putting in. So I'm not going to put any more resin in these, just because I kind of want to, yeah, they're popping up a little too much. Hopefully there's enough resin on them that, you know, it's going to be interesting whether I put any on it or whether I just leave it, right? Because the resin, there's enough resin on these ornaments, on these styrofoam balls, but just sort of move them around. It's kind of going to be interesting, because what you could do is, you know, put a very light spray on them once they've sat. You could put some more resin on top of them. Yeah, let's leave this. This might be kind of cool, you know. Just kind of moving them around a little bit. This might be kind of cool. Sort of like a decorated tree, right? All right. Okay, we're not going to put any more resin because all it's going to do is keep pushing that up, and I don't want it pushed up anymore. I'll take the rest of this translucent, and I think what I'll do is I've got this this mold here. I'm just going to throw it off to this, over to this side, and I'm trying to think how I want to do this. I'm going to end up moving things around, but I'll make a green heart over here, start the process of a green heart. And then what I'll go and do is I will make up some more resin. I'll make up another 80 mils. We'll put the mica powder in them, and then we'll sort of sort it out a little differently because of how this, well, how we know. I wasn't sure. I kind of hoped that the resin would have been heavy enough to keep the styrofoam balls, like, that they wouldn't float like they did. And maybe they wouldn't have if they were bigger. I don't know. And maybe I should have just known that they would. But again, it's one of those things. I hadn't tried it before, and it was I want to give this a go and see what kind of a neat experiment this would be, and how it's going to turn out and how it's going to look, because it could inspire you to come up with something different, and maybe at the end of this I'll be inspired to something different because of it. One just never knows what we might be able to do when they're done, and I am going to be very curious and hopeful that there's enough resin on those styrofoam balls to keep them all together so that I don't have to, or I could put, what I could do is put a very thin layer of UV resin on top of them. I could spray, like, I'm hoping I can get them out, maybe spray them, and then put on a very thin layer of UV resin on them, just to sort of finish them off. That's a possibility. Okay, I am going to let you go. We are going to come back once I have my second batch of resin mixed up. I'm going to separate it out. I'm going to mix up the color, and then I'm going to separate some out so we can just do the styrofoam balls by themselves. And I guess the other thing, before I let you go, the other thing, just because I'm thinking of it now, is how am I going to deal with where the air bubble is going to be like because of it having to soak down through. But hopefully it's done a good enough job. Anyway, I'll be back in a little bit. I now have my mica powder resin mixed up. I'm going to use this small container to put the styrofoam balls in, and then I'm going to mix them up like I did the other one. And we'll do that and see if we can't more easily work with them than what I did before. And I guess well, I don't know if it'll make any difference as far as trying to color them, because we've got mica powder in here versus it just being translucent resin. I don't know if that's going to make any difference or not. I want to try and get enough in to have it be similar to the other two we've done, and I might have to add some more resin in here. I've been giving a little bit of thought to whether or not I really should put a very minor coat of just clear resin on these before I take them out. I'm probably going to, before I do anything, as this sets, I'm going to sort of test, if you will, the styrofoam balls to see, are they moving about? Are they, you know, getting stuck into place, which I'm really hoping they do. That would be bonus if they do, because then taking out, my only thought is if I take them out, like, am I going to loosen them as I do that? Which I don't want to have that happen. I think it would be great if we could, you know, maybe spray paint them a little bit, or, you know, dust them with something a little bit, which, you know, I could maybe take some mica powder and dust them before putting a clear coat on them, sort of like you would a silicone mold. So that's, you know, sort of a possibility, an option for me. So right at this point, my number one concern is, are these going to sort of come apart if I try and take them out without putting a clear coat on them? It reminds me of the people that have done the glass on boards and whatnot. I mean, they put a little bit of resin down, they're putting the glass on top of it, and then they're drizzling very carefully resin on top, just sort of to hold things in place. So it's kind of got me thinking a little bit along those lines with these pieces. If it were glass, I'd probably be less concerned. I'd be more concerned about taking them out, mind you, that I would want to be really careful that I didn't cut my hands. If I was working with glass, if it's, you know, stone or fake, I want to say fake plastic, but you get my drift. I just would want to be careful. I'd want to be careful with glass. That's all. And I think if I were making a piece for someone with the glass, I would definitely, you know, let them know, yes, it's glass. Definitely want to put a coat of something on it. Yeah, so I'm just going to take what I've got here now and put it into these two trees, a little bit in each of them, and then maybe, you know, put a little bit of resin down. I might do some more of the styrofoam balls because I don't think I've quite got enough for these two. I didn't make up quite as much resin this time. I really didn't want to have any left over, so that's why I did that. Did less resin this time. Yeah, they're sticking really well this time to the plastic. And they're not coloring up. They may be coloring up a little bit more because of the mica powder, but not much. And if I figure out a way, or if you know of a way that I could potentially color these without, you know, doing spray paint and, you know, blowing them all over everywhere. I have visions of, you know, like a cartoon that you go and do that and then they end up everywhere. I could always go out and buy the colored ones, but you're not necessarily, I think what they had, yeah, reds and blues and maybe some greens and yellows and maybe orange in it. Like I'm not sure about the colors, and if I were doing something like a Christmas tree, I'd like them to be, you know, greens. So I'm not really sure. Yeah, I'm not really sure about this as far as getting the colored ones. I think it would depend on what you were planning on doing with them. Now the other thing, and I wasn't as careful with it as maybe I would be, is making sure I get these into sort of all the crevices where I can. That would be helpful, right? So you're just going to want to make sure you get them everywhere. I feel like I'm getting resin all over my left hand. So we're going to do up some more of these because I definitely don't have as many in these two as I did in the other two. And maybe that's okay. But we know they're going to float to the top, and I don't know to be honest with you, how much is floated to the top on that one or on those ones. So let's just get a few more of these in here. And let's see, let go, let go, let go. Yeah, now the plastic is sticking to my gloves. And I think definitely doing it this way into a separate container is definitely more of the way to go than the way I'd done the first batch. I think it makes it easier. And I did put glitter in. So there's glitter in with mica powder, and I used the Eye Candy Emerald Green and Imperial Jade. Those are the mica powders that I have used. Yeah, my cup's definitely covered in resin. So those are the two colors, and then the Recollection glitter in it. Alright. So I probably have enough of these now. I'll just put some more in, and maybe what I'll do is pour a little bit of my clear as such here, let's pour a little bit of this stuff in here. Just a little bit. Just to help set them down a little bit. So what do you think of this idea? Have you thought about this idea? I know a lot of people work with glass, but again, for me it was more of, can I have a way of doing this that I can maybe make them the full size but not have the weight behind them. That was my big sort of idea with these. I mean, I could put sand in, you could put rocks in, you know, if you had small stuff like that, but I mean the weight of that. I've done skulls that I've put stone into, and they're heavy. And for something like that, which, you know, maybe you wanted to use as a paperweight or just knowing it's not going to hang on something, you know, I'm cool with that. Or putting glass in and that type of thing. It was just, I wanted something. I wanted to see how light I could make these. Well, still, you know, maybe making them the full size. Because if you make them the full size, I mean, they're going to be too heavy from a resin perspective. Used the J. Diction Resin-Crete to make some of these, and I really wanted them. I wanted them so you could paint them, but I also didn't want them too heavy and thick. So I, you know, was sort of limiting them to 20 to 30 mils, but then I also had to let them sit for, like, I think I let them sit for a day, just because, especially with the stars on these trees, you take this out after an hour, and unless you're really fortunate, you run the risk of ripping the star off. So that's, you know, sort of another reason behind wanting to sort of try the styrofoam and in with the resin. So I'm not going to put any more styrofoam in here. This will be the end of that, and then we'll take the rest of the resin and pour it on top so it can get down in between. And I'm kind of curious to know if, because of the mica powder, if that will sort of act as a, how do I want to put this, to sort of hold these down more, because it's a powder that you're using, not a liquid. And it may not make like any difference, but I'm just curious if it might. These plastic cups are really, they bend easily. Oh, shoot. Okay, so let's just continue on. All right, enough of this cup. It's driving me a little nuts. I'm not really nuts that I'm doing that on the side of these. Anyway, let that go. And I need another. My hand is all covered in resin. I don't know if I've mentioned before, I hate my hands getting sticky. I don't like them being sticky in gloves either. I'm one of these people who sticky does not work for me. Sticky does not work. So let's pour this in here now. Again, as my, yeah, here, let me do this the other way. So you can see. And I'm going to work in getting up into the star. And then we'll just start pouring. I don't think these ones are going to be as thick as the other. But that's okay. So I think this is a pretty neat idea if it works. And that's going to be the interesting thing. Is it going to work? And I definitely like the idea. I kind of hope it works, because I've got some round ornament balls, and I don't know. I'll have to show them to you. You know, if this works out, because I have the round ornament balls. They're like half balls. And I mean, they'll take a ton of resin, which is another thing I'm, sort of working on wanting to conserve a little bit, but they'll be really, really heavy. And like I said, I thought this was kind of a cool idea if I could make this work so that, you were, I mean, like I said, I got these at the Dollar Tree. I don't know how long they're going to have them for. They might even have them at Dollarama. I'm not 100% sure. But if it were to work out half decently, I'd probably go back. Now, you could get other things to put in here. I've got some, I don't know what to call it. It's almost like a moss that they come out with in the summertime. Ashland at Michael's comes out with it to put into things to make like pots and whatnot, I guess, to decorate and whatnot. So, I mean, there's always that you could get, because again, it's going to be light. It's not going to float. It's the color you want it to be. And if they've like a burlap color out, that if you got that color, you could easily spray paint it and then use it in your piece. So there's that option. It was just a matter of finding something light that I could use that would be kind of fun. And I mean, this is kind of going to give it a neat texture. And yeah, if I could figure out an easy way of coloring the styrofoam balls to colors I wanted, like I think of doing this in pink. And people have done, I was so shocked years and years ago. I had seen they had come out with black for Christmas trees and whatnot, and I thought, ooh, that's kind of ghoulish, kind of different. But at the same time, you put the right decorations on a black Christmas tree, or even take a white Christmas tree and make it, put black on it. I mean, you can do some phenomenal things with different colors. And I when I sort of got thinking about it a little bit more, it didn't seem so off the beaten path for me. So, you just change things up, come up with different ideas. Like, that's the big thing to me, is not being stuck on sort of one way of doing things, or doing something that everyone else is doing. That's what I think is the cool thing. Okay, so that's all the resin I'm going to put in with these guys. They're almost up to the same height as the other ones. these ones, I think these ones are going to stick a little bit better together because of the mica powder. But we shall see. And if I decide to put on a clear coat, let go, a clear coat. Yeah, see, now I've pushed them down. Darn it. I didn't want to do that. You have to be really careful moving these things around. It'd be better to use something like this just to sort of move them around, because too many were getting caught on my stick. I've lost my train of thought now. Anyway, I just think this is kind of cool. I think I was talking about them sticking together, and I think these guys are going to stick together a little bit better than that. But maybe not. I mean, resin's resin, right? All right. So now we let them sit. I am going to go outside with my puppy dog and enjoy some of the beautiful day I have. And I hope you have a fun time, and then when I get back to this, it will have been no time for you. And we'll just see how this all turns out. Stay tuned for the next part. It is time to see how our trees turned out. I did happen to make this piece of heart, this heart, using the leftover resin that I had. And it may be hard for you to see, but when I angle it for myself in certain directions, I can see a little bit of gold behind there. What I did was I took some interference gold by Let's Resin, and I just sort of swirled it a little bit on the back of this. And because it's translucent and then the mica, you can kind of, you may not be able to see it very well, but there is a bit of, you can see a bit of the interference gold peeking through on that, which I think is really kind of neat. So I had put that on the interference gold before I put on what I had left over, just the clear resin. So I think that came out kind of neat. You just got to get it in the right angle to see it. I just thought I'd show that to you, just as something fun. Okay, what did I do? This first tree, I didn't put anything on it, aside from what you saw me do originally. The other three, I took some clear resin and I drizzled it on with a popsicle stick. It's hard to say whether I put too much on or not enough, but I just kind of wanted to get it in there so that we could, if this one sort of fell apart, then I had the other three that didn't fall apart kind of idea. So let's see how we did on this, and if we can get them out without hurting anything, stars specifically. Granted, I don't want any of the styrofoam jumping out on this. And I was trying to think, so just to let you know, I did try and spray paint some of these, and all they did was just fly all over the place. That was just, you got to try these things because you don't know. So and then another idea I came up with last night was, so I had a box out in the garage. I just put a few of these styrofoam pieces in it, and then I tried to spray paint, and of course they were blowing all over the place. I then got to thinking, well, what if I put them in a plastic bag and put around the nozzle, the bag, so I tightened it up around the nozzle, the head of the paint can, and then tried to spray them. I haven't tried that yet, but that's another option for me. So let's just see. So this first one came out without, everything popping off. I really like the idea of potentially coloring these a little bit. Again, I'm not sure how, because I don't want the whole thing covered. Like, I maybe want some of them, and I haven't quite figured that out. Now, the other idea that's just popping into my head right now is, what if I took alcohol ink and either splattered it on or just very carefully drop some of it on? How would that look, or how would that work at the end of the day? That I'm not sure of. So let's turn these over so you can see, well, in these ones, because this is the translucent, you can see the styrofoam balls, which is, I don't know, is it a cool idea? The trees have a pattern on them, so I'd kind of like to go around that with maybe one of my chrome markers so that you could see, you know, sort of the indentations a little bit more. Weight-wise, not bad. I don't have anything to compare it to. That's unfortunate. Maybe I should have done one just in resin. That would have been, but it's not too heavy. I would want to put these on a fair-sized tree because they're a fair-sized ornament and whatnot. But you know, they're not bad. And I think what'll be a good comparison is the other ones where I added more resin to them. So let's work on getting these other ones out. So again, if I did this with the mixed mold or Alumilite or Jade Diction, I would definitely let these sit for a full day, just because of the star on it, and depending on how thick you made it, because you don't want to be breaking that off. I'm going to have a lot of cleaning up to do on this mold. Little pieces of resin that got dripped on it. Okay, let's get, so as you can see here, I mean, this is a pretty thick mold, and that's why I kind of wanted to find a way of doing it. And I've got some ornament balls in it. They're very big as far as the cavity goes. All right, so this is one of the ones with the mica powder in it, and one of the ones, obviously these other three, these are the ones I drizzled some more resin onto, just because I didn't want to, you know, not do any of them and then get them out and have, you know, styrofoam balls popping all over the place. Because they were coated in resin, maybe I shouldn't have had that concern. I wanted to make sure, though. I didn't want to have an issue. I'm gonna have to do some sanding on the star because it's got some sharp little tips on it. Okay, like from a weight perspective, to be honest with you, now I think there are more styrofoam balls in the first one and the second one than there are in the third and fourth ones I did. But yeah, well, weight wise, really. So let's take. And I should, yeah, this is the one that's got the coat of resin on it. And again, alcohol ink might work. I might have to play with that. So with these ones, maybe up to the light. So I'm just going to quickly take these and put them on up to the light in my room. No, you can't see them. So with these ones, the mica powder's too thick, too whatever, too dense. And therefore, you can't see the styrofoam balls. On the side you can, which makes sense. On the back, well, front, back, whatever. So I kind of like the idea of taking my chrome markers and doing this side somehow. And I'm just trying to think. I've got gold, copper, and silver. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually grab my silver one. And maybe we'll do a little bit. These are by Let's Resin. And let's see if I decorate this up a little bit. All right, just want to make sure. La 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 la. I'm gonna. And I don't know how dark you'd want to go, and silver may not be the best choice, but that's okay. I think it's just, it'll be cool to have it differentiated, and I try to be so careful with these things so as not to mess up. And I've found the best way for me anyway is to do it once and then let it dry and then come back to it. So let's go down the sides of these. And I do have air bubbles in these, which does not surprise me in the least because of putting the styrofoam in it. And it probably would have been better had I put a bit of a base in before I started shoving the styrofoam into it. So let me just see if I can get this bottom. The concentration, eh? Concentration. All right, I don't know if that helps you to see the lines in there. Let me put the lid on that. I would definitely go over these. I'm hoping maybe you can see the lines on that to sort of help separate out where the branches are. Yeah. So it's interesting because we've got now two sides to this. So I'll be really curious to know what you think in the comments below. Is this something you would consider? I definitely want to try it with the ornaments. I've got the round ornaments. They're half ornaments. And maybe the better idea would be to like put a really base layer of the resin in and then put some of these styrofoam balls in and let them sort of set and then kind of maybe layer it up and up and up. Perhaps that would be better. I like the idea of the mica powder, but I also like the translucent that you can then see through the tree and actually see the styrofoam balls in it, which is kind of neat. Lighting this up might be interesting. I'm just thinking, I haven't put lights in anything. It's sort of like with the flowers. I mean, I'm hesitant doing it. However, you can get such small lights now that even if you drilled some holes in and then plugged the lights in, that might be kind of cool. And too, if it's going on a Christmas tree, you're more than likely going to have lights as well. So they may ping off of the colors. I can see the sparkle in this. I don't know if you can. I think it's more evident in these ones with the mica powder. Now they're also what I would sort of, I guess, call them, there's indentations on these leaves as well, which I could highlight, maybe in a different color. I have got gold and copper, so maybe I could do that, or I have some other paint pens around, so maybe I could do them in a different color altogether. Just again, to sort of highlight the decorations that are on the tree. Anyway, I think that was a neat experiment. I'm very happy that this one, we were able to get it out, and the ornaments, or not the ornaments, there you go, they're ornaments already. Perfect. That the styrofoam did not break off. Now, I could try and break one of these off, but why would I want to do that? But I will look at seeing how I can color these. And alcohol ink might be a cool way. And I thought if I did spray paint them, I would almost want to take a stencil and cover them. And so, like again, so I'm just getting spray in specific spots that I'm not just lambasting it with the color. Now, if that's what you want to do, hey, you know, that's cool. You put it down, you spray it. I'd probably do it a couple of times just so you can get different colors on that. I have some pink. I might play with one of these from a spray paint perspective. I definitely think the alcohol inks might be fun because they shouldn't, because the styrofoam balls were, you know, put in the resin first and then put into the ornament. We shouldn't have an issue with it just soaking straight into the styrofoam. And I don't know if they have a coating on them anyway, so it may not matter, but yeah, that's definitely a possibility. The other thing you could do with it is run some, like an interference. So the Let's Resin interference mica powder or something along those lines. You could maybe run some mica powder over top of, you know, different sections, sort of like you would a mold. So that's another possibility to do. I'm trying to think, you could mix up some glitter like in resin and do that on it. So I think there's a lot of different possibilities with what you could do with this. It's just a matter of how much time do you want to spend on it. But hey, it worked. I might see if I might go back and look at the colored styrofoam just to see what they look like, but I kind of think I'd rather find a way of coloring these versus getting colored ones, because I think then I have more options available to me. And the other thing I would potentially do is layer these more versus the way I've done it, because maybe on these ones, if I'd layered it a little bit more, as much as you can see it on the sides here, you can't really at the front, and that's cool because it's a mica powder. But perhaps if we, you know, put a very fine layer of that on first and then put in some of the styrofoam balls. Now on one of them, I have found that I've got some air pockets. Again, I'm not surprised by that because of the fact of what we were using and whatnot. So there you have it. I think this was a cool little experiment. That is cool. So I have to do a little bit of sanding to get rid of some sharp edges, figure out how I want to paint these, trying a couple of different things. And perhaps once I have tried a couple of different things, I'll post them on my Being Intentionally Creative Facebook page. Anyway, I'd like to know your thoughts in the comments below. And yeah, I hope you're having a great day with whatever you're getting up to. I say be creative, because for me, it's the best thing I can do for myself. Thank you for watching. Have a great day. Take care, and bye for now.